Chapter 62, Strangers in the Night, Frank Sinatra. Originally released as a single. Reprise, 1966. Music by Bert Kaempfert. Lyrics by Charles Singleton and Eddie Snider. The song of the lone wolf, the outsider, the alien, the foreigner. A night owl who's wheeling and dealing, putting everything up for sale and surrendering his self-interest. On the move aimlessly through the dingy darkness, slicing up the pie of sentimental feelings, dividing it into pieces all the time, exchanging piercing, penetrating looks with someone he hardly knows. Tramps and mavericks, the object of each other's affection, enraptured with each other and creating an alliance. Ignoring all the ages of man, the golden age, electronic age, age of anxiety, the jazz age. You're here to tell a different story, a bird of another feather. You've got a tough persona, like a side of beef, and you're aroused and stimulated, with an ear-to-ear grin, like a Cheshire cat, and you're rethinking your entire formless life. Your entire being is filled with a whiff of this heady ambrosia. Something in your vital spirit, your pulse, something that runs in the blood, tells you that you must have this tender feeling of love now and forever. This essence of devoted love held tightly in your grip, that it's essential and necessary for staying alive and cheating death. Intruders, oddballs, kooks and villains, in this gloomy, lifeless dark fight for space. Two rootless, alienated people, withdrawn and isolated, opened the door to each other, said aloha, howdy, how you doing, and good evening. How could you have known that the smooching and petting, eros and adoration was just one breakdown mambo hustle away, one far-sighted google-eyed look and lusty leer, that ever since then, that moment of truth, you've been steamed up, head over heels, each other's heart's desire, sweethearts and honeys right from the beginning, right from the inaugural sidelong sneak peek, the origin, the starting point. Now you're yoked together, one flesh in perpetuity, into the vast eternity, immortalized. By the time Frank Sinatra stepped into the studio to record Strangers in the Night on April 11, 1966, he had already been singing professionally for 31 years and recording since 1939. He had seen trends come and go in popular music and had in fact set trends himself and spawned scores of imitators for decades. Still, it was amazing that the soundtrack of the summer of 1966, according to the July 2 edition of the Billboard Hot 100, was topped by that little pop song. Amazingly, in the middle of the British invasion, Strangers in the Night by Hoboken's own Beat Out the Beatles' paperback writer and the Rolling Stones' Paint It Black. Today, the charts are so stratified and niche marketed, you would never see something like this happen. Nowadays, everyone stays in their own lane, guaranteeing themselves top honours in their own category, even if that category is something like Tom Klezmer vocal performance on a heavy metal soundtrack including Americana samples. But Frank had to slug it out with everybody, even though Strangers was a song he hated, one that he regularly dismissed as a piece of shit. But let us not forget, Howlin' Wolf allegedly once said the same thing about his first electric guitar, and the Chess Brothers put that quote in big letters on one of his album covers. Frank may have hated the song, but the fact of the matter is, he chose it, and therein lies a tale. By the time we had heard Strangers in the Night, it had gone through at least 2 sets of lyrics, and a few people had already laid claim to its authorship. It's a confusing tale that spans a couple of continents. I present it here in the interest of entertainment and will not swear to its veracity. Many cigar smokers have enjoyed the Avo XO, a fine Dominican cigar. The well-known Swiss tobacconist Davidoff of Geneva introduced them to the world, and now more than 2 million a year are sold. These cigars were a rebound revenue stream for an American musician, a Beiruti immigrant living in New York, who felt he had been swindled out of a profit of a chart-topping composition. As a youth, Avo Uvesian was a jazz pianist, playing his way across the Middle East during the early 40s. At one point, teaching Iran's Shah Reza Pahlavi how to correctly swing dance. With the grateful Shah's help, Uvesian relocated to New York in 1947 and enrolled in the Juilliard School of Music. Here is where the story gets murky. According to Uvesian, he sent one of the little melodies he composed to the only person he knew in the music industry, the German orchestra leader and composer Bert Kaempfert. Today, that melody, under the title Strangers in the Night, is listed as a Bert Kaempfert composition. One way or another, the song was presented to Frank Sinatra. According to legend, Frank requested the lyrics be changed. Charles Singleton and Eddie Snider were brought in. They took the melancholy song about parting lovers titled Broken Guitar and returned a week later with Strangers in the Night. Interestingly, Charles Singleton also co-wrote Trying to Get It to You, a song recorded in 1954 by Washington, D.C. vocal group The Eagles. That song was again recorded the following year by Elvis Presley while he was on Sun Records. Other people have made claims against Bert Kaempfert's authorship of Strangers in the Night. One was made by the Croatian singer Ivo Robic, and another by French composer Philippe Gerard, though neither has held up as well as Avo Uvesian's. And as for him, his name is not on the record label, but it is on a lot of cigar bands. He maintained a good attitude and lived joyfully into his 90s. Though he shrugged off the music business, he did not shrug off music, performing regularly and entertaining friends with his piano playing while enjoying millions of dollars of Swiss cigar money. Not all stories have to have sad endings. And as far as I know, no one has ever contested the writing of Frank's hit from the following year, Something Stupid, though it is worth mentioning that it was written by Van Dyke Park's older brother, Carson.